Have you ever wondered why some of the smartest people seem perfectly comfortable being alone? While most people spend their free time surrounded by noise, scrolling through social media, attending endless gatherings, or seeking constant attention. Highly intelligent individuals often choose something completely different. Silence, reflection, solitude. To many people, that seems strange. Some even mistake it for loneliness. But psychologists have discovered something fascinating. Being alone isn't necessarily a sign of isolation. For many highly intelligent people, it's where their minds perform at their very best. Author Susan Cain, whose groundbreaking research transformed how the world understands introverts, explains that solitude allows people to think deeply without the constant pressure of social expectations. Carl Jung believed that many creative minds naturally turn inward because that's where they process ideas most effectively. Productivity researcher Newport argues that uninterrupted concentration has become one of the world's rarest skills and one of its most valuable. When you begin connecting these ideas together, a remarkable pattern appears. Some of the world's greatest inventors, scientists, investors, writers, and leaders didn't spend every waking moment trying to be noticed. Instead, they spent countless hours thinking, reading, observing, improving, quietly building extraordinary lives while the rest of the world chased attention. Today, we'll uncover 10 psychological reasons why intelligent people often prefer solitude. You may discover that what many people call being quiet is actually one of the greatest hidden advantages a person can possess. Let's begin. Reason number 1. Solitude gives the brain space to think. Imagine trying to solve a difficult puzzle while 10 different people are talking at the same time. Nearly impossible. Yet that's exactly how many of us live every day. Our phones vibrate, emails arrive. Notifications interrupt us every few minutes. The modern world constantly competes for our attention. Neuroscientists have found that the brain needs uninterrupted periods of reflection to organize information, connect ideas, and solve complex problems. That's why many intelligent people intentionally seek silence, not because they dislike people, because they value clear thinking. Albert Einstein often took long walks alone while working through scientific problems. Isaac Newton developed many of his greatest ideas while isolated during the plague years. Bill Gates still schedules what he calls think weeks, where he disconnects completely from daily distractions to read, reflect, and explore new ideas. Notice the pattern. None of these people escaped solitude. They embraced it. They understood that clarity rarely arrives during chaos. It usually appears after moments of uninterrupted thought. Perhaps that's why some of your best ideas come while driving alone, walking, or simply sitting quietly without distractions. Silence isn't empty. It's where your mind finally has room to work. Reason number 2. They choose meaningful conversations over constant conversations. Have you ever noticed that highly intelligent people don't usually talk just to fill silence? They're perfectly comfortable with pauses. That's because they value depth more than volume. Psychologists have long observed that meaningful conversations stimulate the brain differently than superficial interactions. Instead of discussing gossip or small talk, intelligent people are often drawn toward ideas. They enjoy asking questions, learning about people's experiences, exploring different perspectives. Susan Cain explains that introverted thinkers often process conversations internally before speaking. This isn't hesitation, it's careful thinking. Imagine meeting 2 people. One speaks continuously but says very little. The other speaks less often, but every sentence adds value. Who would you remember? Probably the second. Words become more powerful when they're chosen carefully. That's why many respected leaders speak slowly. They pause. They think, then they contribute something meaningful. Intelligent people understand that communication isn't measured by the number of words you speak. It's measured by the value those words create. Sometimes silence itself communicates confidence. Reason number 3, solitude fuels creativity. Creativity doesn't thrive in constant distraction. It grows in quiet spaces. Many artists, inventors, writers, and entrepreneurs intentionally spend time alone because creativity requires uninterrupted imagination. Newport calls this deep work. It's the ability to focus completely on one meaningful task without interruption. Unfortunately, it's becoming increasingly rare. Consider famous authors. Many isolate themselves while writing. Musicians often disappear into studios for weeks. Inventors spend countless hours experimenting alone before presenting their discoveries to the world. The public usually sees the finished masterpiece. They rarely see the silent hours that created it. Your brain forms new connections when it's free from constant stimulation. That's why ideas often appear during peaceful walks, morning coffee, long showers, or quiet evenings. The mind isn't lazy during silence, it's working, connecting, creating. If you constantly fill every moment with noise, you leave very little room for imagination. Creativity isn't born from busyness, it's born from stillness. Reason number 4. They recharge their mental energy differently. Have you ever left a large social gathering feeling completely exhausted? If so, you're not alone. Psychologist Carl Jung introduced the concepts of introversion and extroversion over a century ago. One of his key observations was that different people recover their energy in different ways. Some people recharge through social interaction. Others recharge through solitude. Highly intelligent individuals often discover that quiet environments restore their focus. Reading, walking, thinking, learning. These activities provide energy instead of draining it. This doesn't mean they dislike people. It simply means they understand themselves. Self-awareness is one of the strongest predictors of emotional intelligence. People who understand how they function make better decisions. Instead of forcing themselves into environments that leave them mentally exhausted, they create routines that help them perform at their best. Success isn't about copying everyone else. It's about understanding how you work best. Reason number 5. They observe what others miss. One of the greatest advantages of quiet people is observation. While everyone else is busy speaking, they're watching, listening, paying attention. Daniel Goleman, known for his work on emotional intelligence, argues that successful people possess an unusual ability to recognize emotions, motivations, and subtle social cues. Observation develops this ability. Quiet people notice body language, facial expressions, changes in tone, patterns of behavior, details that many people completely overlook. Great investors observe trends before others notice them. Great leaders observe people before making decisions. Great entrepreneurs observe problems before creating solutions. Observation becomes information. Information becomes wisdom. And wisdom leads to better decisions. Sometimes the smartest person in the room isn't the one speaking. It's the one quietly paying attention. Reason number 6. They protect their peace instead of chasing attention. In today's world, attention has become a kind of currency. People compete for likes, followers, recognition, approval. Many feel pressured to constantly share what they're doing, where they're going, and what they're thinking. Highly intelligent people often take a different path. Instead of chasing attention, they protect their peace. Psychologists have found that our minds have a limited amount of mental energy each day. Every unnecessary argument, every pointless distraction, and every emotional reaction consumes part of that energy. Intelligent people understand this instinctively. They don't feel obligated to respond to every criticism. They don't join every debate. They don't waste hours comparing their lives to someone else's. Stephen Covey taught that highly effective people focus on what they can influence instead of becoming consumed by things they cannot control. That mindset creates emotional freedom. Imagine carrying a backpack. Every argument you refuse to let go of adds another heavy stone. Every grudge, every complaint, every unnecessary distraction. Eventually, the backpack becomes so heavy that you can barely move forward. Intelligent people choose to remove those stones, not because they don't care, because they understand that peace creates clarity, and clarity creates better decisions. The quieter your mind becomes, the easier it is to hear your own wisdom. Reason number 7. They never stop learning. One habit appears again and again among highly successful people. They remain students for life. While others believe education ends after school, intelligent people know that learning never truly stops. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime business partner, famously spent several hours every day reading books. When someone once asked him how he became so wise, his answer was surprisingly simple. I read books expose us to ideas that would otherwise take decades to discover through experience alone. Every biography teaches a life lesson. Every psychology book reveals something about human behavior. Every mistake someone else has already made becomes a lesson you don't have to repeat. Highly intelligent people understand that knowledge compounds. Just like money invested over time, every new idea builds upon the last. That's why solitude becomes so valuable. Learning requires concentration, reflection, curiosity. It's difficult to absorb new ideas when your attention is constantly divided. The smartest people never assume they know enough. Instead, they wake up every day asking, "What can I learn today?" That single question quietly changes the course of an entire lifetime. Reason number 8. They think independently. Perhaps one of the greatest advantages of spending time alone is learning how to think for yourself. Modern society constantly tells us what to believe. Advertisements shape our desires. Social media shapes opinions, news headlines compete for our emotions. Without realizing it, many people spend their lives repeating ideas they never truly examined. Intelligent people become comfortable questioning assumptions, not because they enjoy arguing, because they value truth more than popularity. History is filled with people who changed the world simply because they dared to think differently. Galileo challenged accepted science. Abraham Lincoln challenged injustice. Steve Jobs imagined products that many experts believed would never succeed. None of these people simply followed the crowd. Independent thinking almost always begins in solitude. When you're alone, you finally hear your own thoughts instead of everyone else's opinions. That doesn't mean you'll always be right, but it does mean your decisions become intentional instead of automatic. The ability to think independently is becoming increasingly rare, which makes it increasingly valuable. Reason number 9. They understand that growth requires discomfort. Most people avoid discomfort whenever possible. If something feels difficult, they quit. If silence feels uncomfortable, they reach for their phone. If they're forced to sit alone with their thoughts, they immediately search for another distraction. Highly intelligent people often do the opposite. They understand that growth usually begins where comfort ends. Psychologists describe this as developing tolerance for discomfort. Instead of escaping difficult emotions, intelligent people become curious about them. Why did I react that way? What lesson can I learn? How can I become better? Rohn often said, "Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better." Those few words contain extraordinary wisdom. Every difficult conversation teaches communication. Every failure teaches resilience. Every setback teaches patience. The person who constantly avoids discomfort also avoids growth. But the person who embraces challenges quietly becomes stronger with each experience. Success isn't built by avoiding difficult moments. It's built by learning from them. Reason number 10. Their confidence comes from within. Perhaps the greatest difference between intelligent people and everyone else is where they find confidence. Many people depend on external validation compliments. Recognition, status, popularity, but those things constantly change. Today people applaud you. Tomorrow they criticize you. If your confidence depends on other people's opinions, your peace will always be fragile. Highly intelligent people slowly develop something far more powerful: internal confidence. Psychologists call this an internal locus of control. Instead of asking, "What do people think about me?" they ask, "Am I becoming the person I want to become?" Notice how different those questions are. The first depends on others. The second depends on you. Quiet confidence doesn't need attention. It doesn't need to prove itself. Like a mountain standing through every season, it remains steady regardless of outside circumstances. People naturally trust individuals who don't constantly seek approval. Confidence built through discipline, learning, integrity, and experience lasts much longer than confidence built on applause. The strongest people rarely announce their strength. They simply continue becoming stronger. Here is what really matters. The world has become louder than ever before. Everyone wants attention. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to stand out. Yet some of the most remarkable people quietly choose another path. They choose reflection over reaction, learning over arguing, depth over popularity, purpose over attention. If you've ever wondered whether spending time alone makes you different, perhaps it does. But different isn't always a weakness. Sometimes it's the beginning of wisdom. Being alone doesn't automatically make someone intelligent. But intelligent people often recognize something many others overlook. Solitude isn't an escape from life. It's preparation for life. It's where ideas become clear. Character grows stronger, dreams take shape, and confidence quietly develops. The next time someone mistakes your quietness for weakness, smile. Because rivers that run deepest often make the least noise. The tallest trees spend years growing before anyone notices their height. And diamonds are formed under pressure, far beneath the surface where no one can see them. Perhaps your greatest strength has never been how loudly you speak. Perhaps it's how deeply you think. So protect your peace, protect your curiosity, protect your ability to think independently. Keep reading, keep learning, keep growing. Because while the world is busy trying to be noticed, you can quietly become the kind of person whose life speaks louder than words ever could. And one day, people may call your success overnight. Only you will know the truth. It was built in silence. One thoughtful decision, one quiet habit, and one day at a time.